Hi, I'm Kara Ripley. I'm the Adult Services Librarian next door at the library, and I'm really excited to introduce Kelly Maloney, who is our speaker and writer for today. She'll be talking about her third and fourth book. She's been with us for her first and second in the Kelly, in the series, the Lauren Murphy. Thank you. I'm sorry. I just keep blinking. The Lauren.
It might be written there too. I don't know.
The Lauren Murphy series, and then also her nonfiction book about her mother with Alzheimer's. So it's really great that we have a wonderful local author who keeps writing. She's very prolific. So we look forward to everything you write in the future, and I'm excited to hear about these stories you've written. So we are recording today, so if you have your phone, if you could silence it or turn it off, so we get a good recording. And that's about it. We should have time for questions at the end, and then we have snacks as well. So, all right, Kelly, thank you.
Thank you. So, as you were just told, I'm Kelly Maloney, and I'm author of the Lauren Murphy Mystery Series, and I welcome everyone that came. We appreciate it. So this is a talk. I'll be doing my talk first, and I'm actually featuring two novels. So I'm going to start with the first one, Eddie's Revenge. Eddie's Revenge is a novel that deals with what can happen when a cop or cops do not uphold their oath of office and code of conduct and ethics. They're sworn to never betray their honor, their badge, their integrity, or the public trust. They swear to uphold the Constitution and the agency they serve. If one or more cops neglect their oath, their colleagues and the community at large can no longer trust the agency they serve. One or more officers in the Green Bay Police Department has not upheld their oath of office, causing chaos and danger within the department itself. When Police Lieutenant Curtis Kopp mentors a new cop on the force with the Green Bay Police Department, he grows very fond of the fine young man. He even works to help the eager cop realize his dream of becoming a canine officer. He had no clue that it would be such a dangerous undertaking until he finds himself, until he himself is pulled into a plot so sinister that even Lauren Murphy had difficulty figuring it out. Luckily, Kurt found a good attorney, and Lauren committed herself to helping Kurt bear the heavy burden he must bear due to one or more dirty cops that had set him up and put him in great danger. It caused Lauren great heartache and worry that she could lose Kurt forever. So that's kind of the description that I have for Eddie's Revenge. So I'll move on to the second book that we've just recently released, and that's called A State of Confusion. I have to find where it is right now. Okay. A State of Confusion was inspired by my own real-life experience. The experience was not a happy journey for me. What should have been a fairly common problem didn't turn out as planned. My journey began when I was in my mid-30s. My third son was born in 1990. 6 years later, at my annual physical, my doctor told me that my heart murmur sounded different. I had a murmur all my life, so I wasn't too concerned. But he ordered an echocardiogram. Suspecting a heart valve was leaking. He ordered the echocardiogram because he suspected the heart valve was leaking. What the echo found was that I had a birth defect in my heart. I was middle-aged and never even knew. I never had any kind of symptoms to warn me. I was healthy and active all my life. My doctor referred me to a cardiologist, and she explained that I had a bicuspid aortic valve rather than the normal tricuspid aortic valve, like normal people have. I was told it was the most common birth defect of the heart. I was also told not to take up weightlifting or a sport that required rigorous training, and I was fine with that. But it made me realize that I had never been able to run distances or keep up during gym class when we played basketball. I would be terribly winded in a short amount of time whenever I tried to run even just a couple blocks. I soon realized it was the valve that held me back. It wasn't as efficient as a tricuspid valve that had 3 flaps versus a bicuspid valve has only 2. Through the past 36 years, it worked fine for it worked fine for my lifestyle. It never caused any problems. My cardiologist warned that in 20 to 30 years, I might start having problems with the valve. I quickly quipped, "Wouldn't that happen to anyone by that age?" And she admitted that was true enough. From then on, I would have echocardiograms annually, and I took my cardiologist's advice to stay active and keep my heart healthy. So fast forward to 2022. The problem with the bicuspid valve was that it can cause the ascending aorta to increase in size. Over the years, mine had grown to double the size it should be. Surgery was scheduled for February 1st, 2022 to repair the aorta aneurysm before it could rupture on its own and become an emergency situation. But there were complications. I didn't wake up after the surgery. I woke up 4 days later, being unconscious until then. The surgeon didn't know why I didn't wake up for so long. I should have woken after the surgery when the anesthesia wore off. He did a CAT scan, and they were normal. So it was a mad dash to have an MRI. They needed to remove my pacing wires before the MRI. They were removed sooner than they should have been, and I worried my heart wasn't ready for them to be removed. The MRI showed that I had suffered a brain injury due to lack of oxygen to the brain. And that, during the surgery, that caused me to have a stroke. I would have multiple sessions of physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. In a couple weeks, I will be seeing a hand specialist to try to have better use of my right hand that had not fully recovered from the stroke. At the time, I couldn't move my right arm or use my right hand. And yes, I am right-handed. It was a 12-week recovery after the surgery itself. One day, I heard Mark tell the hospital chaplain that I had a stroke. I was flabbergasted. Why would he say that? I didn't have a stroke. I had open heart surgery. I didn't know anything that had happened during and after the surgery because I had been unconscious through that whole ordeal. When Mark told me I wasn't able to put 2 words together, I was very upset. I had just begun my writing career a few months before the surgery. I made it an actual business and had a permit to sell books in Wisconsin. I thought that was the end of my writing career already. I only had 1 book published at that time, and when I was scheduled for surgery, I had begun writing The Death of Me. I worked on that book constantly to get it finished before the surgery. I wanted Mark to publish it for me, 1 last book, in case I died during surgery. After a week at St. Mary's, I ended up at the UW Rehab Hospital. I was only there for a week in an accelerated program. I really didn't like the rehab hospital. I liked the therapist I worked with, but I was there during COVID, and only Mark could visit me, and only for a limited time. And the nursing staff and doctors woke me day and night for vitals, meds, and blood draws. Every single day I was there. And I was barely able to move in my bed without setting off an alarm and being scolded for trying to get out of bed, which I wasn't trying to do. I was trying to get comfortable in the hard bed that seemed to swallow the call button and made me move around in order to find it. I asked Mark to bring my laptop and my phone so I could have something to do to pass the time on those long, boring days. I thought I could do some writing, but my fingers weren't able to type. I couldn't even hold a pen or silverware, so I taught myself to be left-handed, so I could use the mouse left-handed, which I still do to this day. After more than a year of PT and OT, I eventually improved enough to manage my usual daily routines. But since the surgery itself required a 12-week recovery time, I couldn't do much of the PT and OT due to the many restrictions regarding any type of activity. My life at that time was total frustration, from dropping everything I tried to pick up, failing a simple household task, or forgetting things while also recovering from the brain surgery. While I was still at the rehab hospital, I told Mark that something good had to come from this terrible experience. I did not want this to take over my life. So I told Mark, I think Lauren has to experience this also. I began plotting before I ever left the hospital. I was an expert at confusion those first few weeks, so the writing came easy. And so Lauren had her own experience of confusion and recovery, but hers was a different brain injury than I had suffered. I liked Lauren too much to do that to her. My story is mine alone, and now Lauren has her own story to tell through my own experiences. I hope you enjoy Eddie's Revenge and A State of Confusion. I put a great deal of my own life into it, literally.
Do you want to do some questions? Does anybody have questions? I do. So, when you decided to write a book with Lauren having a similar injury, but different, was the writing of it, was it difficult because of all the difficult things you went through? Or was it like therapeutic, like calming, like, I'd like to know more about that.
Okay, I would say it was more therapeutic because it got my mind off of my problems, put it into Lauren. and I love writing, so that kept my mind busy, and it was hard not being able to type. It was my last physical therapist that finally listened to me, because one OT wanted me to, I told her it was important for me to be able to type and write my books. And so she was trying to teach me how to type, but I knew how to type. I'd written several books by then. And, I knew how to type. It's just my fingers couldn't line up. I couldn't make them line up, and it wasn't typing lessons that I needed. It was therapy that I needed. So the last therapist that I had gave me a wrist splint, and because my wrist was weak, my whole arm, my hand, my wrist, everything was weak on the right side. The stroke affected my right side, and so that brace gave me, it held my hand more sturdy, and I was then able to reach where I need the keys that I needed to reach, where without the wrist brace, I'm mostly just stiff-fingered, and it just wasn't working. So that helped me a lot. Now I have tendonitis on the left hand from doing everything left-handed. So now I'm wearing it the wrist brace upside down so I can get my left hand in it. And I'm using that for typing now. and everything else that I do, I wear that, so. Anything else?
Are they still working with therapy to have more use of your right hand, like writing with a pen or maybe something adaptive?
I don't know, did I miss that section? I have been, well, I was in therapy, I don't know, up until a couple months ago or so. And because my therapist said that I only needed to come once a week and then I do therapy at home. But doing therapy at home I was preferring to write instead of do the therapies. But so it just kind of went on to the wayside. But I am scheduled in 2 weeks to see a hand clinic, a hand specialist, and so hopefully I'll be able to get more use back with having someone that actually specialized in the area. She's certified, so.
How fast can you type now?
Not very. I used to be really fast.
Yeah.
But, everything, the fingers are really stiff and just, I don't know, it just, I've gotten so much better from where I was. I mean, I couldn't even pick up anything. And, but I've gotten so far that I can pretty much do anything I want. It's just not always easy to do it. It makes it more difficult to do it. I persevere.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, we have book sales and snacks, so we can sit around and chat some more about books and all that. So thank you.
Thank you for coming.